Hey everybody, welcome back to Fireside Chat number 2. The first one of these videos was an experiment and it was so incredibly popular with you all that I thought I would make another one. So here's what we're going to talk about in today. We're going to give you an update on my own journey to the airlines. As I promised in the tail end of Fireside Chat number 1, we're going to talk about some life lessons that I learned the hard way early on, and they have had a significant impact on the way my life has turned out. And then we're going to wrap up. I'm going to talk a little bit more about what is coming this year for you guys. And before we get into any of that, I've got a housekeeping item that I haven't really talked about. I think I talked about it once in the tail end of a short, but this is a new initiative that has taken off like wildfire. So I'm now part of a small group of people building a nationwide network of independent flight instructors. And we now have CFIs in 40 different locations around the US. I receive I'm just one of the people referring students into the network of CFIs. I've referred already 8 students in the last 30 days. Without ever sending an email to my list and without ever mentioning it in a video, I've just very sparsely mentioned it in YouTube comments in answering people's questions on occasion, because I do get quite a number of inquiries literally every single day, between 3 and 5. And for people like you, reach out and say, hey, Trent, can you help me find a flight school? And the beautiful thing about this CFI network is they're following a lot of the Fly with Trent principles that I used in my own accelerated training journey. So if you are looking for an alternative to a big box flight school, definitely reach out to me. This is going to be a method for you to replicate the type of training that I did and save the kind of money that I saved. So again, if you want more info on that, you can leave a comment below this video, or you can send me an email, trent@flywithtrent.com, and I'll send you to a link on my website where you'll input your information. And that will begin the process of helping you to get paired with one of the CFIs in the network. And if you happen to be an independent CFI, maybe you're a graduate from my 6-figure CFI training program, you can become a CFI in this network. There's no charge for you to do so. And then when we get an inquiry from someone in your market, we will send them away. All right. So let's talk a little bit now about the update on my own training journey. So the last 2 weeks, I was head down in the ATP CTP program. So last week I was in Dallas. I'll talk about that in a second. That was really fun. The week before, I was on Zoom for 4 days. It was, I think, Wednesday through Saturday, 9 hours each day doing the ground school. At the end of that, there was a final exam. I got a perfect score on that exam. And then last week, I went down to fly the simulators, these big monster simulators that are up on these huge hydraulic jacks, and they pivot all over the place. And that was really, really cool. I actually got to fly an Airbus A320 as well as an Embraer 175, the plane I'm going to be flying when I go to work for the regional airline that has hired me. And so that was particularly cool. That was all part of just the ATP CTP training program. Today, I was supposed to be on a plane going to Salt Lake City to start my airline training class, where the company, trains you, and then you get your type rating and you do all things. At the end of that training class, you actually just start flying the jet. But much to my dismay, the TSA approval for that training did not come in time. I literally, if I would have had it be 2 or 3 days sooner, I still would have been in that training class, but I got bumped, which caused no end of grief and frustration on my end. But I got bumped. And so now I'm told that I am on the top of the waiting list, to the very tippity top. And the moment a seat opens up where the next class starts, that I will be in that class or in that seat. And I'm told that should be no more than 60 days. So that completely sucks. It's better than nothing, of course, but it's really disappointing when I had my heart set on beginning training today. So that is an update on my own journey. So now let's talk about life lessons. And this first one is maybe more for guys who are a little on the younger side. And I'm going to call it the learn versus earn lesson. So back when I was in my 20s, I was a really impatient guy. And so I was very, very focused on, and I grew up poor. And so I was really focused on how can I make the most money possible this month and this year. And I was pretty successful at it, but it came at a cost that I didn't understand back then. And that's what this life lesson is. So I sold office equipment door to door in a territory. I made a lot of prospecting calls. I sold a lot of office equipment. And then I began a career in financial services, which really was sales as well. And I actually got written up in the book Atomic Habits in chapter 16 for something clever that I did it was called the paperclip strategy. You can look it up in the book if you have that book, because a lot of people have that book. But nonetheless, the lesson here is the opportunity cost was that because I wasn't doing something that I wanted to do for decades. That meant there were going to be changes, and the changes are momentum killers. They're kind of like starting over again. So I was in office equipment sales, but after 2 or 3 years of doing that, I think it was 2 years, like I just didn't want to do it anymore because it wasn't interesting work. I was able to really force my way through it and make a lot of money because I was really good at prospecting and presenting and sales and so forth. But it wasn't fulfilling work. And so then I went on to financial services and I did that for 5 years. And after 5 years, the same thing, I was kind of burned out of doing it because it wasn't work that I enjoyed. I enjoyed the paycheck. I made lots of money, but I didn't enjoy the day-to-day work. So here I'm trying to make all this money so that I can go and buy stuff and have experiences that would give me happiness, but instead of deriving happiness from my work. And so the lesson there is, when you choose, you young guys, when you're choosing a career, focus first on what you can learn versus what you can earn so that you can build momentum and build a career for yourself doing something that you really enjoy. And so I'll in a minute, I'll tell you if I had to do it over again, what I would do. But nonetheless, that's the lesson. Takeaway number 1 is choose a career that will allow you to learn and then use that knowledge over time to substantially earn. Now, a lot of people think, well, hey man, I'm going to do my own startup. I'm going to start a small business and that's how I'm going to create this longevity for myself. And it's going to be something I'm going to love and I'm going to make lots of money doing it. And so that's what I did. When I was turning, I think it was 29, I started my first company and I quit that high paying job that I didn't really enjoy. I was making about $200,000 a year way back in the 90s to go do this business dream thing. And I was going to get rich. I was going to be on the cover of all the magazines like everybody else was. And I did manage to get, so I had quite a bit of success relative to most people. I was a Profit 100 fastest growing company. I was the top 40 under 40 business people in Vancouver, blah, blah, blah. So, I had some success, but here's the thing. Raising money for a startup is not easy to do. In fact, most startups will never raise a dime. The ones you see on Shark Tank and the ones you see on the covers of all the business magazines, they are the tippity top of the pyramid. They're the 0.1% of the 0.1%. Everybody else out there is not able to raise a dime for their business. Getting customers is incredibly hard because so many people start commodity service businesses. They don't even have a product, or if they have a product, it's not a unique product. So you've got not a unique service or not a unique product. You have a serious problem on your hands, and that is, how do I compete in this red ocean of Me Too's? How do I get customers and how do I scale my business? Now, you as the founder, you might be able to use some relationships that you've got to get the first few customers, but at some point, you're going to be the bottleneck in your own business. And then how do you replicate whatever it was that you did to get you from zero to maybe $200,000 a year in sales or some arbitrary relatively low number, usually well under $1 million. How do you replicate that? And then how do you hire people? And guess what? People, talented people, are really expensive. So let's say that you've got this service business and you're doing $200,000 a year and you're the only employee. Well, you don't really have a business, first of all. You're just self-employed, because if you stop, money stops. But then how do you grow that business? And this isn't something that I thought about early on. I just lived in this naive headspace where I just thought, oh, there'll always be just enough money. As long as it's growing, all the problems will look after themselves. And that's not true. Businesses that are growing really fast consume way more cash than they throw off. In my case, I had a really fast growing company, but I couldn't take a paycheck out of that business for the first 5 years. No paycheck for me, paychecks for all my employees. Why? I had a commodity service, so I had a lot of competition. Therefore, my gross margins weren't nearly high enough. Every time we landed a new contract, my co-founder and CTO was a technology service company. He said, "Oh, hey man, we gotta hire another engineer," and those guys were $85,000 a year each. I'm like, "Oh, great!" So I thought I was gonna maybe finally get a paycheck, but nope, I gotta hire another guy, another person, or another gal. And so the takeaway here is this: the vast majority of small business owners will never exceed or even come close to $1 million a year in revenue. And most of you will stay broke for your entire journey as an entrepreneur. And that sucks. And there's a huge opportunity cost. So for example, in my case, and keep in mind, I had quite a bit of success with my first business. After 8 years, I sold it for over $1 million. But guess what? If I would have just kept that $200,000 a year sales job that I had, I'd have been way further ahead, and I wouldn't have had all the stress, and I would have never had to have been $400 and some thousand in debt, and I wouldn't have had to go 5 years without getting a paycheck. Are you getting the idea? So I'm not saying that being an entrepreneur is necessarily bad. But I want you to, if you're going into that, I want you to really have your eyes wide open and understand that there is going to be a couple of very harsh realities. Harsh reality number one is the opportunity cost. The lost income from whatever you were doing before will probably be far more significant than you ever thought it was. And this business is going to consume far more cash than you ever could have forecast. And sales are most likely going to grow at only half of whatever sales forecast you create, because sales forecasts, as Warren Buffett says, they're nothing more than pipe dreams. So if I was to do it over again, actually, hold on, let me say this. So am I saying that being an entrepreneur is a bad idea and that you should never do it? No, that is not what I'm saying. What I am saying is maybe don't quit your day job like I did to launch into something that has no guarantee of any results. Maybe there's a better way to do it. And so the better ways, I'm going to cover those in just a second, but I want to say, if I was, with hindsight now, looking back on my career the last 3 decades, if I was to do it over again, I think I would have just, I did join the military as a pilot, and unfortunately, in my case, budget cutbacks made that, that cut me short. But here in the US, we don't seem to have budget cutbacks in the military. So if I was to do it over again, I would go join the military as a pilot. I would get all my flight training for free. I'd stay in there for 10 years or maybe even 20 to get my pension. And then I'd go to the airlines. And if I had done that, even if I had just started the airlines in my 20s now, I would be way wealthier than I am now, because I would be a senior captain making $500,000-$600,000 a year, barely working. And I would have had way less stress in my life. Yes, in my 20s, I would have made much less money, but in my 20s, I just wasted it all on stupid toys anyway, motorcycles and boats and campers and girls and trips and, all the things that any other young, dumb kid do when he's making a lot of money. So it didn't necessarily provide any lasting benefit. Now, does that mean that all kids in their 20s are dumb and they're going to waste it like I did? No, but most of you. And so there's going to always be a few of you who will be wise with your money because maybe your parents taught you to do so. Or there's a few of you who are going to be exceptionally successful in your small business because maybe you had a key relationship or you were incredibly clever or what have you. So I'm not saying it can't be done, but what I am saying is the probability is of having a lot of success is going to be much lower than you would think. So then that begs the question, well, okay, Trent, now that you completely shit all over my dream of being a successful business owner, should I just not do it? The answer again is no. Here's what I think a much better way to do it is. You find work that you enjoy, a W-2 job, where you, thanks to the education that you got, so you're going to need to go to college, you can earn, say, $100,000 a year. And then you live frugally. You don't buy fancy cars. You house hack, and you invest in real estate as early on as you can in a situation where you can ultimately end up living for free because you're renting out rooms in the house. So the fact that you were making $100,000 and you were saving like crazy, so you were able to save up a down payment, you were able to get a piece of real estate with low money down because you're moving into it yourself, and then you rent out all the rooms, or if it's a duplex or a triplex or a quadplex, you rent out the other units. So the end of the day, you can now live for free. So now you've got this high, steady paycheck from this job that you got educated for and that you like, this career, and then you invest in real estate. And maybe that's aviation, because these days aviation does pay very well at the beginning, but maybe you're not necessarily going to be a pilot for a career. You just watch my videos because you like flying. So you get that steady paycheck and you start investing in real estate. Now, is that the only way to do it? No, there's one other thing that has proven to be incredibly lucrative for me, and that is to be a content creator. So the beauty of being a content creator is that it can absolutely be started as a side hustle. How to do that and so forth is a whole nother topic, and maybe I'll cover that in a video in some point in the future if you really want me to dive into and unpack this whole content creator stuff. But there's a bunch of people on YouTube who've already made gazillions of videos about how to be a successful content creator. Just know that it is a fantastic opportunity, and it works for a lot of people on YouTube. There is channel after channel after channel of people making content. It is really, really passive relative to a regular business. As in my case, I have virtually no customer service. I have an editor, so I have no employees. I use AI extensively. The money comes in literally every single day, whether I'm working or not. Nobody ever asks for a refund, so it must mean my products are quite good. And it's just the coolest business I've ever had. It's the most fun I've ever had, because this is evergreen content that's not going to go out of style anytime soon. And it just keeps growing and growing and growing. Like, I look back what I was earning 3 months ago, and if 3 months ago, if I would have had a guess at what I'd be earning now, there is no bloody way I would have guessed that the number would have gone up as much as it has. So that's my advice for you guys. So now let's talk about what is coming this year. So I've talked on a number of occasions about real estate on this channel. I'm a huge fan of real estate investing. I've made probably the biggest one big chunk of money that I made off of one building. And gosh, I wish I would have never ever sold that building. In case you don't know what I'm referring to, I bought a 18,000 square foot multi-tenant light industrial building in my town back in 2018, and it was a real piece of junk. And then we fixed it up, and a couple of years later, we sold it for $800,000 more than we paid for it, and that equated to a net profit of about $600,000. And the amount of work that we had to do over those 2 years compared to my business that I owned, which did not $600,000 over 2 years, the amount of work that we had to do was next to nothing. So there's all sorts of opportunities in real estate. And I know that it can be extremely overwhelming for new people to get started. YouTube is filled with people talking about how to get rich in real estate. And the thing is, the vast majority of those people who are talking are trying to sell you a course on how to buy and rent out single family houses, or how to become a wholesaler, or how to buy sub 2, or any of these really common things that everybody and their dog is trying to do. And so that's not what I was originally headed down that path. And I very quickly realized that that was going to be a lot of work with not near enough payoff. And at the very same time, we had made passive investments in a certain asset class where we were just what's called the limited partner. And these passive investments have done incredibly well for us over the last 3 years. And I'm going to talk more specifically about what these are in future videos. I'm going to even introduce you to the people that I've invested with. But before, what I want to cover in today's video is just the idea of GP versus LP. So GP stands for general partner, LP stands for limited partner. So when you go and try and buy a piece of real estate yourself, either to renovate, fix and flip, keep as a rental, whatever, you're basically the GP. You're the general partner. You're the one that had to do all of the work, take all of the risk, and then you get all of the reward if there is a reward. Now, it is very, very common for GPs to raise money from LPs, limited partners, and you need to be an accredited investor to become an LP. So not everybody watching this is going to have the financial wherewithal to be what's known as an accredited investor. In our case, someone who I've known for years goes out and buys this particular asset class, and then they fix them up and they add them to their rental portfolio. And it has been very lucrative for us, because typically what a good GP will do is they'll buy an asset that is underutilized. They'll spend the first couple of years fixing it up. Then they'll do a cash out refi. So what does that mean for an LP? Well, in our case, it meant that we got, typically it's an 8% per year distribution. So we got 8% return on our money, and we were getting checks every 3 months. We still are, never missed a payment. But then what happens when the GP does a really good job taking an underutilized asset and optimizing it, they're able to then, it has a higher market value. They can refinance that particular property, take a whole bunch of cash out, and that cash comes back to the LPs. So in our case, we're just about to get a check for over half of the check that we wrote in the first place, but those distributions keep on coming in. So now, instead of an 8% return, I'm immediately a 16%, and this is simple math. It's not quite this simple, but for the purposes of this video, we'll just use simple math. So if I invested 100 grand to begin with, and I was making $8,000 a year, 8% on 100 grand, and now I get 50 grand back, and I only have 50,000 invested, and I'm still getting $8,000 a year, that's a 16% cash on cash return. And then you can take that cash that you got back and reinvest it and do it again. So the beautiful thing about being an LP is it is 100% passive. You don't need to find the deal, buy the deal with the engineers, the architects, the cities, rezoning, construction, and all of the stress and frustration that goes with that stuff. That's what the GP's job is. Your job is to do two things: write a check, cash checks. That's it. So in talks with several of my super successful real estate buddies, it has come to my attention that there is probably a substantial opportunity for me to continue to invest as an LP, but also to use the audience that I have here on social media to make these investments available to other accredited investors. In other words, you could invest in the very same deals that I'm investing in on the very same terms that I'm investing in those deals. And I would be the one essentially finding these general partners and vetting them and doing all the research and so forth, because that's what I would do when I'm investing my money. So all of this is more than likely going to be brought to market as a new brand called Invest with Trent. I don't want to confuse the YouTube algorithm by putting too much real estate investment stuff on my aviation channel. So there's probably going to be a new channel. There's probably going to be a new website. And I'm going to create something what's called a fund of funds, which is a legal structure that allows me to do this without becoming a securities dealer or broker or any of that. There's a bunch of legal stuff that anybody who's has any even remote association with raising money, that's considered to be selling a security. And there's all sorts of legal ramifications of that. And I want to make sure, obviously, that I keep myself out of any hot water. But the bottom line is this: my goal is to keep investing in these deals myself, because I have all this income and it needs to go somewhere. I'm not just going to put it in the bank. And I want the types of returns that we've gotten over the last 3 years, which have been high teen rates of returns. And so I'm going to create all of this in a way that for those of you who are consuming my content, if you want to be able to invest in the same stuff as me on the same terms as me, then all you need to do is just keep an eye out for future videos, because I'm definitely not going to keep it a secret. I will make mention on this channel of when the new channel is available and the new website, and it will be very, very easy for you to follow along. And if you're not yet an accredited investor, the focus of that channel is still going to be very much like the focus of this channel. I'm going to be focused on educating you, helping anyone who watches my videos to be more successful at investing in real estate, so that you can benefit from watching the videos. So I don't know how long we've been going here, because I don't have the little thingy on the screen. Oh, 29 minutes. Wow, this is a long one. Okay, so we're going to cut it off here. This is the end of Fireside Chat Part 2. And again, if you guys want me to keep going with these, please make sure you like this video. Make sure you leave a comment below, because I don't do fancy thumbnails for these. I don't do any fancy editing. They're long form videos, and usually new people, they don't really get attracted to these videos. These videos are very much for the people who are already regular viewers of my channel. So it's a way for me to really give extra back to you guys, create high levels of engagement, hopefully pass on some useful education. I hope I did that in this video. If I did, I would love it if you would comment below what your favorite part of this particular video was. And if you have things that you'd like me to cover in the next Fireside Chat, which will be probably in about a month from now, then do let me know down in the comments. Thank you all very much. Again, I greatly appreciate the fact that you guys all watch and comment on my videos. I could not do this without all of your support. So for that, you have my massive and I'm struggling for words here, but you have my gratitude and my appreciation for fans of the work here that I'm doing. That's it. Thanks so much, everybody. See you in the next video. Take care.